to connect with other attendees, exhibitors, and sponsors daily. Now I would like to introduce Austin Hamilton. He's one of the owners of the Southern Valley and Fruit and Vegetable Farms, and today he will be sharing information about using rate control technology at the farm level and how he's utilizing technology at his farm and seeing the benefits from the technology, as well as some of the other considerations for other growers to, if they are interested in this technology, and how they can utilize and benefit from this technology.
Good day to everyone. My name is Austin Hamilton. I'm with Southern Valley Fruit and Vegetable. I'm the Director of Ag for Southern Valley. I take care of all the farming. We've got a farm in Georgia. We've got a farm in Tennessee. Some partners in Tennessee, and then we have operation in the Yucatan, Mexico. So we're a 365-day out of the year vegetable company, and we grow anything from cucumbers to yellow squash, eggplant, bell peppers, hot peppers, sweet corn, cabbage, broccoli, cauliflower, okra. We grow pretty much everything. We do grow some peanuts. We grow some cotton, just different amounts of things. I'm gonna be doing a presentation on using rate controller technology at the farm level. I'm gonna throw out some questions for everyone, some questions that I come up with, just to try to give people information, any questions that they may have. I'm hoping that this would give everybody a sense of confidence. And so I'll start out with some of the questions. Why would a farmer want to use a rate controller, and how may it help them save money? So, you know, when I think of a rate controller, how that can help me save money, I first started with rate controllers about 4 years ago, just using it with Telon and PIC and Metam sodium whenever we lay plastic, and I was basically trying to not waste product. We had some waste on the ends. We had waste when the tractor slows down, if you keep a constant pressure like we was doing. So I went to rate controllers trying to improve my rating process of how I put out, if I wanted to put out 5 gallons to the acre of something. I went to a rate controller trying to build my success in that. And you know, that's been a big help to gain our rate like we're wanting it to. You know, I use it whenever I'm planting cotton. I use it. I've used it on several different pieces of equipment using a rate controller. Just helps us set the rate. Helps me have confidence in what my guys in the field may be doing, the operators. You know, there's a lot of times where you slow down, or somebody not going as fast as they should, and maybe the pressure's not as high as it should be. But with a rate controller, I can set that thing, and it does what I want it to 9 times out of 10. So I just tried to build confidence with the rate controller, and I've been pretty successful with that. So we'll go to the next question. What are the main advantages to using rate controller from a chemical saving standpoint? So another thing, whenever I was looking at using rate controllers for the Telon and that sort of thing, that's where I started with it. And I didn't want any waste. If I wanted to put out 5 gallons of Telon, I wanted to put out 5 gallons of Telon. I didn't want to put out 5.2 or 4.8. I wanted it to be 5 gallons. And typically, you know, I always wanted to overshoot something. You know, more is better, as you know, tends to be the farmer saying. But I like to, if I want to put out 5 gallons, I was shooting for 5 gallons. So that was a huge advantage for me to be able to set that rate controller on that. And you can do different rate controllers are different, obviously, but the one I was using, you can actually do a test speed, you can do a test rate, you can do a lot of different things, and you can basically simulate me working in the field at a certain miles per hour. You can put your implement width, you can do whatever rate you want to be, you can run whatever speed you're thinking of running. you can do a little test with it, and you can make sure that whatever lines you may have, I was using speed tube, so basically your orifice tubing, that's what I was using, just to, you can make sure that's the right size, with the rate controller. You can catch it in a cup, whatever product you're using, and you can make sure that you're putting out the right rate. And you can also calculate things a little bit easier and put it into the rate controller. And I think you can just dial it in a little bit more than you could, if you were basing everything off of pressure and speed. A huge advantage of a rate controller, it's all done by GPS, or the one I used was done by GPS, and so that it knows how fast the tractor is moving, or whatever piece of equipment you may have it on. It knows how fast you're moving, so it's able to calculate all that for you. I mean, that pretty much sums up some of the main advantages. From a chemical standpoint, I think that trying to hit the rate that we're all shooting for, I think that's important from a cost saving standpoint. And obviously your labels and food safety, there's a lot of different reasons why we would want to improve that. So I go to question number 3. Do you run into any issues while using a rate controller? So some of the issues that I've ran into with it, it is electronic. It doesn't last forever. You're not going to have a rate controller forever. It's going to get banged up. It's going to be in the field bouncing around in the tractor. I think they are pretty tough. The ones I've had are pretty tough. If you leave it in the tractor and it's hot, it's sitting inside that hot cab, it is electronics again. Your wires eventually get corroded. Your wire coatings start to fall off and be brittle and crack. And so that, there's some issues with that in itself, but that's with pretty much all electronics. Other issues we've ran into, I would say mainly the issues with the wiring, but sometimes you can get false readings, like maybe off of the probe or the meters that you may be using that are feeding back into the rate controller. Some of those, you may have issues with those, and so you're getting false information, and therefore your rate controller is not able to do its job. But other than that, I mean, that's pretty much all we've ever really dealt with. So I don't really have any other issues that I would speak of. We got a question number 4. Are rate controllers easy to use and understand? So when I first started messing with rate controllers, I had someone help me a good bit with it, just kind of walk me through every step of the process. And I wanted to know how to basically troubleshoot the rate controller so that if there was an issue, I could fix it on the farm. I wouldn't have to call somebody. So, I went probably a little bit more in depth with learning the process than most people probably would. So it wasn't extremely hard to understand. And I would say it's fairly easy to use. The setup on it's probably the hardest part as far as using it. It's pretty easy to use most of the time. I've got the next question here is, can anyone operate or set up a rate controller? So this kind of pertains back to, is it easy to use and understand? So as far as setting up the rate controller, I would say that, you need to be very well versed in how you set it up, because there are several different places in the rate controller that you're going to plug in numbers, and those numbers have to be right. If you've got the one I used, if you had an implement that was 15 foot wide, it was the number inside the rate controller was in inches, so you need to calculate that, which is not hard, but it's just some people would think, well, let me put 15 in there and it needs to be 180 for the inches. So you pretty well got to know what you're doing when you set one up. Otherwise, you're not going to be successful on your rate. So there's, as far as, operating the rate controller is very easy. The one I've used, you make very little change once you set it up. there's usually not a lot of issues. Once you get one going, you can run for however long you need to run until you get finished with the job. Hadn't never really had an issue with anyone operating it. As far as, you know, I've got Hispanic guys that operate all of ours, and I mean, I don't have very many issues with that at all. I think it's been very easy for most people. I just show them a few things, you know, on and off, tell them if you're going to change a rate, how to change the rate, but I don't go into the details usually of how to completely change all the settings and, you know, change the width and all that, just because it can be a little confusing if you don't understand it. So I'll go to my last question here. How much does a rate controller usually cost? And what type of return time you're looking at investing in this technology? So I would say, you know, the way I calculated it, if I was able to put out the rate that I was wanting to put out, again, I started out with using it with fumigants, and I've since went on to spray bars, and I'm using it on planters now to put out a liquid in furrow. May use it for a hooded sprayer of some sort, you know, if I need to get an exact rate on something. But usually a rate controller, you know, the ones I've messed with, if you buy the meters and all that I've bought, I mean, they're somewhere in the, you know, $500 up to $2,500 range. It all just depends on what you get and what type of controller you may want, and what you're wanting it to do. Mine that I've always bought have been pretty simple, and you know, they're just calculating speed with width and ounces per minute, and it's pretty easy, pretty simple. And I would say that I returned my investment probably in the first year on mine, just because I was able to go over, probably went over 3,000 acres with it, and I calculated a savings to be able to save me that amount of money in that year. So I could buy a rate controller every year and throw it away. Not that I would do that, but you could, to get away with some of, you know, get away from some of the issues with the electrical parts and that kind of thing. You know, maybe do that every 4 or 5 years or something, just so that you could keep the rate controller running and you wouldn't have much downtime. But I've been very impressed with rate controllers. I've been very happy with them. I don't really have a whole lot of negative to say. I recommend them to anyone that's doing any kind of rating in the field. So I don't really have any other thing that I would suggest on the rate controllers. You know, just basically talk with people and see which one they like the best, and you know, find out which one works the best for you. And I've enjoyed talking through this, and I want to thank everyone for listening. Thank everyone for participating in this, and I hope that I was able to help people feel a little bit more comfortable about rate controllers. And now I'm going to be a part of a question and answering. So if there's any questions anybody has, I'll be in the next part, and I will see you there, and I'll answer as many questions as possible. Thank you, guys.